Hey y'all, it's been a while since I last made a video. In case y'all wondering, I'm doing well. Today I just wanted to make a video talking about my testimony. Right now, as you can see, I'm outside. You can hear the birds and stuff like that. Currently walking to work. My car went down on me a little bit. I think it was Sunday. So just having that get checked out to make sure that it is good, that the expense for fixing it won't be that much. But in all honesty, I am grateful that I'm, walking outside to work. It's about an hour walk from my house to my job. And I can't really complain about it for real. It's giving me time to really reflect, think and appreciate the life that I have, the life that I've been blessed with, and appreciate the world around me. But back to talking about my testimony. When I was a kid, it was very goofy, still goofy, of course. But I always tried to do my best to have like a good time, keep a smile on my face, and be happy, even if I was dealing with tough situations in life. And this was ever since I was younger. And I came from a home where there was a lot of arguing, a lot of between my mother and father. God bless them. I love them so much, and I do need to spend more time with them. That's something else that I've realized in this time of me not having a car, is I do not really spend too much time with my family. And I've been grateful for the time that I have gotten to spend with my mother and my grandmother and my sister. And now I'm going to be making sure that I make it a point to spend time with my father when I do get my car, because he's quite a bit far away. He works over at a rec center that's pretty far from where I am. But when I ended up getting to a certain age, there was like little hints of it, but there would be times where I would see inappropriate images from a very young age. I think the first time I might have been like 7 or 8 years old, and I don't know if y'all ever heard of Robot Chicken. Most of y'all probably have, but there would be some times where I would hear some things from that channel that are not good for a child to be hearing, that were sexually inappropriate. But as I got older, my friends at the time at the school that I went to, I was in like the 5th grade. Y'all might hear some cars because I'm coming up on a main street right now. But they ended up telling me about, like, we would talk about sexual things like strippers. And of course, I didn't really know anything about that, but I wanted to fit in. So I was acting like I had any knowledge of what that was. Hold on one second. Okay. Sorry, I had to cross the main street. But, I didn't really know what that stuff was, but I was also interested because, like, what is this that they're talking about? I want to know about it. I want to be able to fit in with these kids, and, relate on them at some level, so I wouldn't get picked with, because I was the bigger kid in my school, and because of that, a lot of the other students would try to like mess with me, or just to make themselves look better in front of the girls, because it's like, oh, we're bullying or beating up the bigger kid. So Y'all should, like, you know, mess with us. Let's, like, try to make themselves look better, which I never got beat up, but I always fought back. But it was like I always got picked with because I was bigger than everybody else, which is weird. You know, you would think that, you know, they would leave you alone, but it is what it is. But I ended up seeing some fashion magazines from my mom one day. She didn't show them to me, but I ended up just like finding them as I was walking through the house. They were just sitting there, and I was like, So I grabbed it, went to my room, and I ended up seeing some stuff that activated my flesh for the first time. And from that moment forward, you know, I started to get more information from my students at the time, my fellow students at the time, on, like, you know, twerking, you know, websites and stuff like that. I didn't really get into the websites till about like a few years later, but like my parents would often catch me watching things I shouldn't watch. The sad part is that no fault to my parents, you know, they were still learning on how to raise me. They were young parents at the time, so they didn't really know too much of how to, like, stop me. So they were like, hey, you know, if you're gonna do that while everybody is sleeping at night. Just don't do that while everybody is awake, because basically they didn't want to see that, rightfully so. But it built a habit within me where I would either do it at like 10 o'clock at night when most people were sleeping, or in the middle of the night. I would be up in the middle of the night doing that stuff, or it'll be early in the morning before I would get ready for school, before I would get woken up to go to school. So I built this habit, and because of what was going on in my home with the arguments and, you know, me dealing with the pain from not really having too much peace in the house, and me as a kid, I just wanted my parents to, like, you know, love each other. You know, I just wanted them to be happy, and I wanted there to be, like, you know, peace at the house. But it was always arguments, it was always anger. Not always, but there would be times where it would be chill. But because there was so much of it, there would be times where I would lash out in anger when I was much, much younger. But when I was like around like 10 or so, I ended up going to Korn and playing with myself to make myself feel better. And that was how I dealt with the anger, the frustration, and the pain of, like, you know, the struggles that were going on in my home. And as I got older, when I would be in relationships, I would get my heart broken, or like there would be times where the person that I was with at the time were getting into disagreements or arguments. I would go to those things to make myself feel better. And it was around when I was maybe 13, 14 years old when I found out what Korn and sexual websites were. And after I found out what those things were, it just skyrocketed from there. I was doing it dang near every day, multiple times a day sometimes. And I was addicted to it because it was the thing that made me feel better, you know. It was a constant dopamine release. You know, I'm over looking at, idolizing these women, looking at these women in this way. And because I was doing it for so long with no like real like instruction on like, hey, you shouldn't be doing this because you're becoming dependent on it. And when you try to get into a relationship one day, when you get older with a girl and she ends up seeing you doing these things or looking at these girls in this way, you would end up obviously hurting them, breaking their heart, or devaluing them. And in reality, I was devaluing these women that I was doing this to, whoever they were. whether they value themselves